Good morning, y'all.
Morning.
This is Word of Mouth with Nate and Shelby.
Woo-hoo.
I think Mr. Nate thinks we're going to be talking about identity or pressure. Which one are we doing?
Let's do pressure.
We're doing pressure.
Let's do pressure. Let's talk about pressure. What's up, Shelby?
Not much, sir.
How you doing?
Dandy.
Good. Listen. Let me clear my throat. Let's talk about pressure. Jump straight into it. Have you ever been under pressure?
Never.
We
Just
gonna
all
take
the
a
time. It's
pause.
no big deal, you know. It's just a constant.
Constant. Constant pressure. How do you deal with that? Constant pressure?
Well, if I'm absolutely honest, I don't do pressure well at all. So when things start to pile up, I start to freak out. If it's just a constant little manageable amount of pressure, I can handle that. And you just push through. That's all. You got to keep rolling.
So you're saying there's levels of pressure?
Absolutely.
Really?
You know that.
So as a human, do we know when it's too much?
When we head for the hills.
That's good, right? That's a good answer. I guess I'm trying to get at, why do we wait till it get
That bad?
that bad? Yeah. Like, why don't we start relinquishing some of the pressure before it gets to the point of no return?
Because we don't want to look weak
To who?
to the people around us that we're trying to impress.
I guess I can get that. But in this day and age, like I feel like everybody's under some kind of pressure, whether it's the pressure of the world,
Right.
whether it's the pressure of just being a human, whether it's the pressure of being a woman. Then we talked about this last week. Women, when it comes to validation or when it comes to comparison, that's pressure.
What about the pressure of being a man?
I was gonna go into that. Even the pressure, and I feel like the pressure of being a man can be very intense. Not try to put it on a scale, but if you, statistic-wise, I did some research that men, when we are under pressure, we tend to crack quicker than any other species because we can't handle the pressure. Now, you would think that the man's supposed to be the one to handle it. Why can't we handle pressure?
Because the emotional fortitude is different.
Explain that, please.
What?
Wow, that was good. The emotional
Why am
fortitude.
I like the? I don't know. I just think that like we've said before, women are constantly in emotion. We are constant, some kind of emotions going on, right? Men are kind of removed from that. It's a little foreign to them.
So that's what adds the pressure.
So I think, yes, when the emotions build, because I think emotions build when you're under pressure, your frustration, your fight or flight, all that stuff, right? To a certain degree, depending on what kind of pressure you're facing. So I think because women are kind of accustomed to that and it's in our nature, it doesn't affect us. We're able to continue rolling. Whereas with men, it's like, holy crap, what is this? And it just is kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. The camel that broke the straw.
Yeah, whichever way.
Flip it.
You know, I can honestly say I agree with that. I watched, and being in a single parent household growing up, I watched my mom be able to multitask everything, whether it was the children, whether it was paying the bills, whether it was making food, whether it was working. She did everything. I don't think men know how to manage everything at once. We can do it, but we have what you call these blinders where we have to focus on this, and then we move to the next and focus on that, and then we move to the next. To be multitaskers, we can't put everything into one. So I think that's very interesting from a woman's perspective for you to say it that way. And I guess that can be emotional, but also I think that's just the way that we were created.
Well, and, we have to go back to creation and that the woman was created from the man to be his companion and his helpmate. And there's supposed to be a balance between the two, right? So women are supposed to balance the weaknesses in men, I think, and men are supposed to balance the weaknesses in women, whether it be physical or emotional or whatever. And that's how we're supposed to work together.
Wow. You said something I probably have to tackle this another day. Helpmate.
Mm-hmm.
Is it men that don't accept the help, or is it women that don't want to help?
Oh.
But that's another day, so I don't want to go.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't know that we should touch that right now.
Oh my God. So the pressure that is added, I think for men, we can try to understand how to deal with the pressure, but once it becomes so overbearing, I think some of us, we chuck the
Buckle.
deuces. Yeah. We kind of try to find a way to get out as quick as possible. Right now, if you look at statistics from 2022 up until now, the suicide rate for men is much higher than it is for any other species due to pressure. And the sad part is, why are we not addressing that? Why are we not talking about that more? Not just from a male standpoint, but at least women should care enough to want to help so that we don't kill ourselves trying to maintain pressure.
Okay, but I know there's a lot of women who are busting their asses out there, being the man and the woman in the relationship.
Ooh, you preaching. Come on.
And taking care of the whole family because the men have bailed. I'm not saying all men. I'm just saying there's a percentage out there.
Absolutely.
And so you got a lot of women out there who are hauling the whole load and do not have any time or patience to be listening to anything we're talking about right now and having any empathy for men. Now, that's a whole nother conversation again.
That really is
when we
right
talk
there.
about the helpmate conversation, that's when that will come.
Okay. Yes, that's so good. And I think the reason why men have left women in that way, because we couldn't handle the pressure.
Oh.
Literally. I mean,
Ouch.
we felt like they can do it better. And that's so sad. I've experienced that as a son. In so many different ways, I've experienced why it was so many limited men in my life. I didn't see a lot of men, but I saw women,
Wow.
and they stuck around and they did whatever it took.
Wow.
But I didn't see a lot of men, and how sad is that? Like, you're right. I can't wait to that podcast where we talk about that.
Yeah, because that's a serious societal issue that needs to be dealt with. It really does, and I don't know where it went sideways.
Pressure.
And there is, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but there is an attack on men that's been going on for a while now. And that's another conversation, too, to go along with the conversation that we're saying we're going to do later. But pressure is definitely something that we all experience to different degrees. Some people, I think, it's a fleeting thing. It comes and it goes. And some people, I think, are in positions in life where it's a constant. And so you just roll with it until it becomes a lot. And then you got to figure out what else you're going to do about it because it's too much.
Because it's too much. Wow. Listen to the definition. It says it's continually or continuous physical force exerted on or against an object by something in contact. Something or someone, in contact with it. So you have to be in contact with that thing to add pressure. How I can look at that is from a gym standpoint. I'm in contact with the bar, so I'm going to add more weight or more pressure for me to press, but I have to be in contact with the bar to know that I can either push it or it's going to
Right.
not be pushed. Another definition that's given is the use of persuasion, influence, or intimidation to make someone do something.
That's the one we're talking about right here.
Oh my God. the influence to make someone do something.
Or intimidation.
I got a lot to talk about when it comes to that.
Uh-oh.
I'll probably let you go first because intimidation there's so many aspects to that. That adds a lot of pressure. When you're backed in a corner, I think I heard this as a kid. If you trap a cat in the corner, they freak out and they'll find a way to get out. That cat was under pressure. And a lot of people have been in that place where I was put in a corner and I had to fight my way out by any means
Necessary. And when we talk about that, though, if you also think about when people lash out at you, and it might just be off the cuff, it's probably because they're under pressure that you aren't aware of.
Wow.
And it's usually probably self-inflicted.
Whoa. So you're telling me in a relationship, when people lash out in relationships, whether it's male or female, can it be that they were under pressure from something that they're dealing with in their own lives, or maybe some past issues, or maybe some stuff at work, or anything?
Absolutely. And it can always be spiritual. We all know that. Well, if you're Holy Spirit filled, you understand that there's a spiritual realm that is around us all the time that we are under attack from all the time.
Well, I want to tackle that more than anything because spiritual pressure, I think, is more intense than any physical pressure ever. I believe that because if we're talking Bible, I mean, the Bible tells us not to wrestle against flesh and blood.
Yeah, we don't.
This stuff is easy.
Yeah, we wrestle against principalities and powers.
That's the pressure.
Well, honestly, that's what everything boils down to in life. It boils down to, I've always raised my kids, it boils down to light and dark. So you got to get down to the nitty gritty of whatever you're grappling with, and you got to figure out which side it's coming from. Because if it's coming more than likely from the dark side, then that's where your problem is, and that's where it needs to be addressed.
That's where you need to deal with it.
Right.
Wow. What happens when people don't know that it's coming from the dark side? And as we read, they begin to lash out from a fleshly standpoint because they don't know.
Yeah. Well, unless they're walking with God, I don't know how they could know. I honestly don't know how people do it because I could not. I would crumble. But I think that, so there's probably a lot of blame going on in their lives upon other people. There's probably a lot of frustration,
Blame, anger,
fear.
frustration, aggravation. Wow. That can lead to depression, anxiety, ultimately suicide. I get it. That's stuff that we need to address. And it's a hard conversation to have with people, with the next generation that's coming about. But with just us personally, like, we probably need to talk about it in a form where we deal with it. Sweeping it under a rug ain't gonna help.
No.
I was told, as a kid, that every time you sweep something under the rug, it's like a pink elephant sitting in your front room that got polka dots on it. It's an elephant. It's that big. It got polka dots. You see it,
right,
but you're just going to let it sit there? You're not going to address the fact that we see this elephant sitting in the front room?
Well, see, and that kind of goes back to our previous conversation about the small fox. The little things that we allow to snowball into big things, when if we had just been vulnerable and addressed them in the little stage, it may not have been a big thing that created a whole bunch of hullabaloo.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
And I think a lot of times we're so caught up in life, we're so busy just trying to get the tasks at hand handled, that we don't have time for that.
But why let it get so big, though? I know we don't have time for it because life is like coming Tuesday is gonna always come after Monday.
Right.
But I think some of the stuff we need to handle because it's getting worse.
Sorry about that.
It's getting out of hand. We're we're holding on by a thread. We're angry.
All the time.
We're frustrated all the time. We're
Offended.
We're on edge. Driving here, where I am now. Can't tell you where I am, but I'm driving here. There was a truck that was on I-40, and I promise you, he was driving like he had a problem. I think everybody went down to like 40 miles per hour because I don't know what was wrong. I began to pray, but I don't know what was wrong with him. Like he was just all over the road. We need to address some things and not let it spill over.
Well, I think a lot of us, haphazardly in our minds think, well, it'll go away. Eventually it'll just go away.
Have you ever felt that way?
If I don't deal with it, it'll go away.
I know I felt that way many
Yeah.
times. I've tried to sweep it so far up under the rug that I know that it may
Or
have
I'll get
went away.
over it.
Yeah. No.
But do we? No, we don't.
It didn't work
That's
for me.
a
I don't know
lie.
if it worked for you, but it didn't work for me. Yikes! It got worse for me.
Well, and okay, so if we're going to talk about men, let's talk about the suppression of those things.
Yes, please, let's talk about it. For one, for me, and I'll be 100% honest, I suppressed a lot of things growing up. I suppressed a lot of feelings, a lot of things that happened to me. I suppressed it because I thought I had to keep going.
Right.
I thought I had to keep pushing forward.
But then we're exerting pressure.
Yes,
That causes pressure.
yes.
And pretty soon that pot's going to boil over.
Honey, I blame it on a lot of people.
That,
a lot
yeah,
of people.
that pressure cooker's going to explode because it's got to go somewhere.
Ooh,
So
that's good.
you got to, that's
Pressure cooker. So when I think about a pressure cooker, have you ever cooked with one?
oh yeah.
When you're cooking with one, when you put the top on it, have you ever saw the top like kind of bounce off?
Bubble.
And yeah, it like bubbles up. Is the food done? It's just the pressure that's rising.
It's just bubbling under the surface.
Talking to myself.
It's under the
just-
surface.
It's under the surface,
Yes.
and it's just bubbling, and you see the top moving. That's men. We'll talk about women in a minute, but that's men. The top is moving. We're bubbling. We under the surface.
Just try and keep that lid on.
Because we have the outer part that we just have to maintain. We have to be this or be that.
And
But
that
we're
goes to
bubbling.
comparison.
See, you turn it all into one.
I'm telling you, it's
It
all
does.
going to boil down to the same nitty gritty. It's all going to be about the same stuff.
Comparison, validation, all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But the pressure, I don't know. Sometimes I know I can talk to a guy and I can like get something off my chest and I feel kind of stupid for doing it just because I feel it's kind of flippant. But it's done.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. You know how us girls talk all the time. Us females, usually. And men are pretty quiet compared to how much we talk.
Yeah.
But that's the way we're made, right? And that's part of us processing stuff, is just talking about it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like a conversation. It can just be that I am going to say this and blah, blah, blah. It's over with. Whereas men don't do that.
Because we don't trust everybody. I'm gonna just say it as is.
Ooh,
Can't trust other
we
men
don't
to
trust
that.
everybody.
Because that would definitely go back to validation and comparison. Because if I say that I have weaknesses in some areas,
It's
then I know-
vulnerability.
Can I tell you about the Bible study just last night? There was a guy that was there, and he spoke about just some different things that he had faced in life. And I saw men judge him in a way of, like, okay, you're different from everybody else. But by the end of that whole Bible study, they began to embrace him because we talked about it. They began to embrace him and say, we understand. Like, I don't look at addictions different. I feel like,
We all have them.
absolutely. If you're a drug addict, if you smoke cigarettes, if you drink, sex,
If you're on your phone all the time,
all of that. If you are addicted to something, it's still called an addiction. We put wagers on what addiction.
Yes, there's levels.
Yeah. On what addiction is worse.
It's just like sin. We think there's levels of sin.
Preaching.
It's the same thing. Addiction and sin is the same thing. There's no levels.
Preaching. We're going to turn this to a Sunday service. She preaching.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, though. You were talking
No,
about
you're
the Bible
good.
study.
No, that was so, because you're right. We put a wage on sin. We put a wage on addiction. The person that's drug addicted is worse than the person that's phone addicted.
It's the same thing.
But that's not how we
But
look
see,
at it.
society gets to decide what's good and what's bad.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't want anybody being addicted to drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff or porn or any of that
Right.
because it draws them away from Christ.
Absolutely.
So does the phone. If you're on your phone all the time, and I'm speaking me, this is me. If I'm on my phone all the time, am I spending time with Christ? No, I'm not.
Wow.
So all of it gets in the way of the relationship with Christ.
And that's pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pressure. Not to be on your phone. That's pressure. Not to be addicted to anything else that you can be addicted to. Because you're fighting against you.
Yeah, but that goes back to the principalities and powers that we're talking about.
All of it, as you said, and I'll make this a disclaimer, everything will tie back into that.
Yes.
Everything.
Yep.
Wow.
Because we all are spiritual creatures, whether we want to admit it or not. That's how we were created. And that's never going to change.
Yes, ma'am. So the end part of that Bible study, the guy, one of the guys that was there, he began to just shares a lot of stuff. By the end of the Bible study, we as men, we began to embrace him because we understood that what he had was pressure. All he had to do was release the pressure that he was under. He had resentment of certain things because of pressure. He didn't know. And once we were able to kind of share with him, hey, this kind of ties into
And
that.
chip away at it.
And chip away at it. He got more relaxed. Man, I like this.
And see, you allowed that avenue to be opened up, and now all of the people sitting in that room should be able to. That's a funky noise.
That is.
They should be able to feel at ease in sharing. And that's what it takes. It takes those moments.
That's
And
very
it-
hard for men.
Absolutely. And it takes incredible courage to step out of your comfort zone and do that. But that's what's needed. And you're going to have to understand that you are going to be judged. You are absolutely going to be judged. But do you care? You're going to have to not care. Because you're getting judged every moment of every day, whether you think about it or not.
My God.
Everyone is. As we walk through this life, as we look at each other walking down the road or driving down the road or whatever, we're all judging.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to, but we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
We'll have
Every
another
day.
conversation about judgment.
That's a good, that would be actually a good one,
Judgment
really.
and standards, and how to figure out which one is a judgment and which one is sending standards. Because in our society today, we have very little standards that are demanded.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah.
Judgment.
That line
standards.
keeps getting moved.
To wrap up pressure, let me ask you a few questions. Have you ever been pushing an object and you felt like the object was hard to push? What did you do?
Well, you either get really angry and you push it as hard as you can until it moves.
Are really making my point now. Good, good,
Yeah.
good.
Or you quit.
Oh my God. Wow. So you have those two that you just gave. You either get really angry, upset, and you be like, you know what?
I'm going to kill it.
Or you give up.
Right? Those are both negatives, aren't they?
Yes.
There's no positive in there.
The sad part is society has taught us that, but I don't see another way that we can do it is just ask for help.
Yes.
Why don't we just ask for help? We would rather try to push a uphill battle
Ourselves.
ourselves.
And get frustrated and get pissed off and walk away from it or implode
instead of asking for help.
But that's what we've done. We've become such an individualistic society. Everything's about the individual. We don't have teams. We're not a connected body.
How? Even us as believers, though, like, how is it that we don't understand the concept of help? Jesus himself had to carry a 210-pound cross up a hill. Mm-hmm. God knew that his son was going to need help. He opened the door for his son to get help. Can we not take that parable and use that for our lives? Mm-mm. We would rather sit there and get angry or quit. What if Jesus would have quit halfway up the hill? We wouldn't be here.
Oh, that'd be a bad, bad thing. Thank you, Lord, that you didn't do that.
Thank you, God. He did it, though, and he had help from a stranger that God said, yeah, my son will get some help. My goodness. We won't even take the help.
A lot of that is ego, and I'm speaking from me personally because I am an island. I'm an island. Mm-hmm. I will take care of everything on my own. I don't need your help.
For those that don't know what an island is, she's going to explain that. Like an island? What? I
am an island. I'm out there in the ocean all by myself.
All by herself.
All by myself. Yeah, because after you get disappointed so many times by people, you're just going to do it. You're just going to do it. Doesn't matter how much it is. Doesn't matter how many jobs you got. You're just going to do it because you don't want to be disappointed again, right? And you know your own capabilities. And yeah, there's some things I look at and I go, I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to learn. But is that the right thing? No.
No.
It's not the right thing. And I'm trying to learn now that I've got to let that go. Like, I have to be able to rely on people and not put that pressure on myself.
She said that off camera earlier, like, how does pressure come about? And one of the things that we had mentioned was the pressure that we put on ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think we put a huge amount of pressure on ourselves.
I think that's where most of it comes from.
Especially from hurt, from trauma, from
disappointment,
rejection.
Yes.
Validate, all those things, comparison, all of those things, we put a huge amount of pressure on us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think it's time for all of us to begin to ask for help.
I think we have to. I think this is all these conversations are going to boil down to that we've got to allow, for lack of better words, our soft underbelly to be exposed and to put down our guards. And when you do that, you have to understand that there's going to be consequences that come with that are not going to be comfortable. But if we want things to improve, that's the only way we're going to be able to get there.
Wow.
And we have to allow other people to do it too, without judgment and without shame. Shame is so huge. And until we get to those points, we're going to continue being islands, floating out in the sea.
As she said, we're going to continue to be islands. We have a part 2 to this, so we're going to take a small break and come back with part 2.